A very good morning to you. Thank you very much for making time to watch KBC Channel 1, and it is time for Biz Check, coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Betty Kiptum. We shall be having quite a detailed conversation in the next 1 hour about how to ensure that your business is insured during these political times. Remember, it is 11 days to the general election on August 9th. Kenyans vote, and every 5 years there is some bit of unrest or some sort of violence. And just to ensure that your business is protected from either physical damage or any closures or uncertainties that may cause some kind of losses to your business, that takes some insurance. And to just have this conversation with us this morning is Eliud Adiedo. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Insurance Brokers of Kenya. Thank you very much, Eliud, for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty, and thank you for having me.
Karibu sana. Let us just start here. Could you take us through what insurance during, or rather political insurance, so to say, and where it is in Kenya?
Okay. Yes, insurance for political risks especially came about as a result of the 2001 terrorism attacks in the US, the Twin Towers. It is after that incident, unfortunate incident, that the world started noticing the aspect of terrorism and related to it political risks and violence. So in Kenya, this became more pronounced after the 2007-2008 post-election violence. You'll recall that the elections came, people voted in December of 2007, and then in the first week of 2008, January, the violence erupted, and with it came a lot of damage to property and loss of life. So it is after that period that there was a lot of prominence that was given to political risks and terrorism insurance in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And since that time, how has the uptake been?
We saw a very large uptake in 2008 all the way up to the first elections following that, I think in 2012. And then when the country started getting peaceful or less violent elections, the trend seemed to reduce slightly. However, again, I think in I don't remember the year properly, but the cycle is always such that before the elections, there's an uptake of terrorism and political risks insurance. After the elections, they tend to reduce. So it is cyclical in the sense that every 5 years, there's more caution by particularly the business community to guard and safeguard their properties, and for the people as well, for injuries and death. That policy covers both injury and death as a result of political violence. So every time there's a cycle of general elections, the tendency is that is what happens. So it's very cyclical in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we delve into the nature of the electioneering period this year, could you give maybe a snippet of why it is important and the different kinds of things that are covered? Because there's the physical damage,
yeah,
and sometimes curfews might force you to close your business. Mm-hmm. So how does that work?
Yeah, so the ordinary or the traditional insurance policies do not cover political risks. Mm-hmm. They do not cover terrorism. They have an aspect of malicious damage and riots. That is covered in an ordinary fire and industrial perils policy. But that is not the same as when it becomes pervasive and large in the nature of a political risk or an election. So the cover is generally for damage, like you correctly say. It also covers loss of life. It covers injuries as a result of that violence. And because a lot of the businesses are the ones that suffer losses, they are the ones that have the largest uptake. In Kenya, the penetration of insurance is not yet that high, but in the case of businesses, we find that business interruption can come as a result of exactly what you describe, lockouts, curfews, and so on. So that there's limited operating hours, and because of that, there is loss of business. So there's an uptake that tends to favor the business community more than it does any other sector. After all, it is the business that suffers the biggest. The people who perhaps are not in business will suffer, but not to the extent of the businesses. So yes, there is an importance of having the risks covered to ensure continuity in the business even after the violence or the political risks. Yes.
What are you seeing in the insurance sector right now, specifically for political insurance? Is the uptake that...
Yes, like has happened in the past, it is cyclical, although this time around, because of what we experienced with the COVID and the pandemic, the cash flow, the economic environment has not been very favorable. So as much as there's demand for it, the uptake may not match the levels that had been there in the previous pre-COVID, pre-pandemic days. So the graph is still trending upwards, but not as high as it did pre-COVID. Yes.
And this is because are businesses being cautious about what they are spending, or is it that they are looking at the risk and seeing a lower risk this year? Which is it?
I think it's a mixture of the two. The run-up to this election has been very peaceful so far. We have not witnessed what we did in the previous elections, where the several months to the election, there were all sorts of instability around the country. This time and I'm going purely by press reports, what we see on TV, we haven't seen that magnitude of violence or magnitude of concern. It's getting a little bit, the temperatures are getting a little bit higher now, and that is to be expected, but it has not been as pervasive as has in the past. In the last few elections, that would take 2-3 months to the election. There'll be a lot of noise, a lot of commotion, but this time around, I think, and this is my own personal view, that the temperatures are quite low, and therefore the risk, and purely, looking at the news items, the risk has not been as widespread as has been in the past. Yes.
But the demand is still there.
The demand is still there. The uptake is there at a lower level.
At a lower level.
Yes.
So when we talk about demand, of course, demand and supply, it necessitates maybe a hike of a price. Is it happening? Are premiums going higher?
The premiums went higher after the 2007 elections.
Okay.
They went up because insurance is a business where you have reinsurers. Insurance companies cover the risk, and then they in turn get covered by reinsurance companies. So what happens is that the treaties in 2008, the reinsurance treaties went up, and with that, the insurance premiums as a result also went up. They have actually not gone down since. They have stayed up. And now, because of COVID and because of disposable income, it is a question of people self-insuring. It is reduced expenditure on insurance simply because there's no disposable income. Otherwise, if we had the ability, we would still find ourselves perhaps exceeding the levels of insurance that of premiums that were written in previous years. Yes, so the demand is there. It's a question of disposable income.
Right.
Yes.
For businesses, the big businesses, you find most of them are often insured throughout.
Yes.
Then the small businesses are the ones who take maybe occasional insurance based on the times or the environment that there is. So what is your advice, especially for the small businesses right now who may not have these continuous covers? And also to that, how do these continuous covers work?
So most of the insurance covers are for 12 months. In the case of corporate business, we call them corporate business, or the ones you're calling businesses, those corporates tend to insure for a clean period of 12 months. Premium is paid once in the 12 months, although there's provision that allows installment payments. And there's nothing to stop monthly payments, for example, because the law does not preclude that. However, in the case of smaller business, the SMEs, the encouragement is for them to pay in installments. The sums insured are smaller, the businesses are smaller, so because of cash flow issues, they are allowed to pay in installments up to whatever they are comfortable with. Added to that, there's what we call insurance premium financing, where if because of cash flow issues, a business finds itself unable to settle the premium at once, then they arrange with a financier to allow installment payments. So at a small interest, that is also allowable. So what the insurance covers is normally a 12-month period, and that is what we call a short-term insurance. But there are also life insurance policies. In addition to property insurance, there is the other aspect of the long-term insurance. The property insurance is referred to as short-term, and then the life insurances are referred to as long-term. Those are traditionally monthly checkoffs if you are employed from salary, or any other installment that is pre-agreed with the insurance company. Yes.
So the life insurance bit is for individuals?
Yes. You have them in individuals. You can have individual life, but you also have groups. So if we are, for example, KBC, there's a staff complement of X number. The insured is KBC for the employees of KBC. So it's called a group life policy, and yes, it is on insurance of the person, not the property. KBC would have its assets, and then KBC would also have its employees. So the life cover is normally for the employees, and the property insurance is for the assets. Yes.
And just a bit about that life insurance, how important is it at certain times like this, the political period?
Life insurance is always important. It has nothing to do with the period, because we don't know when you can be called upon to visit the other side of the world. So,
Indeed.
So life insurance is always important. It takes more prominence around this time, but that's not actually life insurance. That is personal accident insurance, another type of insurance, which is a short-term insurance. And it refers to injury to the body or the person of a person, not necessarily death from natural causes, which is what life a lot of the times refers to. Injury, death from natural causes would be a long-term kind of insurance, and that's what we refer to as life insurance. And the one that we are referring to is personal accident, where you could be hit by a car, you could be hit by a riotous mob, etc., etc. So those are slightly different. They insure the same individual, but for different things. Yes.
How far do you think the journey has been, and where is it going in terms of mainstreaming political insurance?
I think it has acquired an important aspect, particularly because Kenya is one of those countries that at one point was regarded as high risk because of our elections. Following the post-election violence in 2007, 2008, Kenya was classified as a high-risk area because of that potential to go, we did very badly after that election, and therefore we were regarded as a high risk. So every institution now has, if not some aspect of political violence, at least a terrorism cover. Because again, in this part of the world, we are the ones who have been targeted by terrorists, and because of that, we have had to raise our antenna on the issue of terrorism. We have had no less than 10 incidences of terrorism, and thank God now it has gone a bit quiet in the last few years. But there was a time when Kenya was regarded by reinsurers, the people I spoke about, as a high-risk area because of past incidences. So that it's an important thing now for every business entity to have an aspect of political violence and terrorism insurance. Yeah.
Kenya's insurance generally is very low. The uptake is still very low. What are you doing to ensure that more people are viewing insurance as an essential thing in their lives, even in their businesses, and just ensuring there is higher uptake?
It is a problem we are grappling with across board, from the regulator to the insurance brokers to the insurance agents and the public. The poverty levels in this country are such that insurance is not a priority item. Which is very unfortunate, because again, if you do not have insurance and you do a business and then the business goes under, then you're left for the worse. So what the regulator particularly has done is to try and educate the masses through, you'll see on TV, a lot of promotion of insurance in every part of this country. Then that promotion takes the form of, ordinary language policies being given at workshops. People go around the country, the insurance regulators, sometimes we accompany them. I was in Meru myself some years ago when we launched what we call the ECOP, where the agents, there are about 12,000 registered agents in this country. The agents and the brokers, who are about 200 licensed, we go out and we spread the word to the best of our knowledge. It is a difficult job to do because of the disposable income that I spoke about earlier, not being able to meet insurance as a priority item. And therein lies the conundrum that you're not insured, and therefore if you lose an asset or your business, then you're completely wiped out, as against having the insurance, and then at least you can be restored to where you were before the incident. So it's a bit of a catch-22. It is a work in progress, and hopefully we can be able to raise the numbers with these efforts that the commissioner is doing, the IRA, the insurance brokers of Kenya, and the agents. All together have to work together in unison to try and increase the uptake of insurance.
Definitely a concerted effort is needed.
Exactly.
There. What are the trends that are emerging in the insurance industry, both globally and some that are being adopted in Kenya?
Just about a week ago, there was the launch of Nairobi as the international financial center in this part of the world. His Excellency, the President, did a launch, I believe it was about a week or less ago. And that tells you that there's a lot of financial attention being paid to Nairobi. Coming with that as a financial hub, there's importance to be paid to the anti-money laundering and particularly what they call the AML risks, anti-money laundering risks. And because of it being a financial hub, the international community expects that if they invest in this part of the world, we will not be laundering their money. We will not have illicit money finding its way in and out of the borders of Kenya. So insurance then becomes extremely important as part of the world economy. We have to be able to support what are international treaties, international practices on financing. So if Nairobi is going to be an international financial center, which it is already, then comes along the insurance and practices, global practices that are expected of us. And that is why you will see the Cabinet Secretary the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before, launched the report on the anti-money laundering, and that is part of our expectation of the financial hub that Nairobi has become, and indeed the global community as part and parcel of what makes a financial hub. Yes, so we are in an ecosystem that is not restricted to the boundaries of Kenya. We are across the world as part of the world economy, doing all that is expected to us. We have to raise our game. We have to be able to be very transparent and be able to stop any illicit outflows or inflows into the country of money. You will see the banks these days, before you transact, you will be expected to fill forms, you'll be expected to give very detailed information of where you're getting money from or where you're sending money to. That is the level of transparency that is expected of anybody in the financial sector today.
Apart from uncertainties like political times, there are some challenges that the Kenyans especially are facing, from the global end to the local part. Let's talk about a bit of climate change and its impact even on our agriculture, and how to ensure that our farmers and people in that sector are being insured.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that are happening across the world, and one of them is the climate change. It is one of those things that I would say a threat not only to business, but to livelihood itself. We are no longer able to predict weather patterns. We are no longer able to talk about the long and short rains that we used to be able to some years ago. So there's a risk, particularly in a marginalized area, the northern part of Kenya, where the drought has been a problem, not only this year, but perpetually. So in the case of insurance, and to address that problem, we've always had crop insurance and livestock insurance under the ambit of agriculture. The prominence that has been given to that aspect is probably not where it should be. In my view, we should have given a lot of attention to both crop and livestock insurance by giving it proper budgetary provisions. It is getting to a point where we are no longer going to be able to assume that nature will reverse itself. It is getting to a point where it's going to be a point of no return. When climate changes as rapidly as it has, it's not going to be able to be reversed or reversible. So because of that, we find that it is important to emphasize that agriculture insurance, and particularly crop, because agriculture is a wide insurance. There's fisheries, there's livestock, there is, you name it, crop. But particularly in the case of livestock, the government has to now give more attention to what we call index-based insurance. Index-based is where the weather patterns are known, and we fashion products to respond to those patterns. So you'll find that if it is anticipated there'll be a drought, then of course the insurance is in place for the large swaths of land, those that are doing pastoral farming and so on. There is insurance in place way before that is experienced. So insurance is one of those factors that can help to reduce the losses to the farmer, to the country, and generally to humanity. If we do not have insurance, then it's a total loss. When a drought happens, wipes out the livestock, it's gone. There's nothing to fall back on. Where there was a cover, there would be some aspect of investment in terms of repositioning the farmer back to where they were. So it's a very critical part of any business, of any undertaking, and in this part of the world we really need to now emphasize its importance and relevance. So I think in the West and in other parts of the world, South Africa for example, the penetration is very high, and that helps to sustain business. Business is all about predictability. If you cannot predict that you'll be in business tomorrow, then you might as well fold up and go home. But if you have some aspect of predictability, you can be able to have an even, venture, and that you can also sustain yourself should the inevitable happen. Yeah.
Picking up from the issue of predictability, agriculture has been known to be high risk. It's said to be high risk even for the insurers themselves. How is this impacting the uptake?
Yeah, the agriculture is high risk, but it is also scientific. If you go by what experts have done in other parts of the world, we have the insurers who have done many years of study of climatic conditions. They've been able to plot data and are able to predict very accurately what will happen at what time. So it is high risk, but there's what they call weather-based index finance insurance, which then gives some measure of predictability as opposed to not having anything. If you just wake up and say that we will go and plant maize, and you have no information of the weather patterns 3-4 months that the maize crop will take to grow, you stand a chance of losing the entire crop. So if we have some predictability, then you can say, okay, this variety of maize will withstand this weather condition, and so on and so forth. So you are able to more scientifically gauge what to do at what time. And so therefore, to your question, if insurance of agriculture is risky, it is worse if it is not there. Yes, agriculture is risky, yes. You can never predetermine what your output will be unless you've got, things like certified seeds and whatever's. But that is in itself not sufficient, because the inevitable will still or could still happen. And therefore insurance then becomes a critical component of the input in terms of your costs of inputs for agriculture. Yeah.
And how affordable is it for farmers, especially the small-scale farmers who make the over 70% of farmers in Kenya? How affordable is it, and are there products that have been engineered for them, targeting their small farms, small amount of livestock? Yes. Okay.
The affordability is a function of very many things. I talked earlier about disposable income. Generally speaking, we don't have sufficient funds for insurance. It is not a priority item, has never been. Now, the mitigating factor is to bring these farmers into cooperatives. What has happened is to organize them into organized groups and possibly cooperatives, so that we have a collection of people who then contribute, and the insured becomes the cooperative society, not the individual farmer. That way, you draw from the law of large numbers. The more you are, the less you pay, and it becomes therefore affordable. So there is encouragement in every sector, particularly the crop and livestock, that they are formed into organized groups, even if it is not a registered cooperative, but some sort of a group where they're able to pool their resources together, and that way you are able to remember, the affordability need not be, the premium need not be cash. They could find a way. I saw in the case of, I think, crop insurance, where or is it milk, where you deposit milk and that becomes your insurance premium. So similarly, you could have a way where it's non-cash based. If you harvest your maize, you exchange it. It's almost like a barter trade. And therefore, if you form organized groups, you're able to attend to some of these things in that manner, where the farmer does not feel left out because he's an individual or he stands out. He's not able to afford, his neighbor is able to afford, and so on. If you put them collectively, then you address that cooperative society or that group as one entity and not the individuals that make it up. That way, because of the law of large numbers, you're able to make it affordable, make it sustainable, and then they see the benefit of having insurance. Yeah.
Of course, that speaks to the much change that needs to happen in terms of mindset, and also even innovation by the insurance industry itself.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's just talk about the innovation that is happening in terms of new products, ways of ensuring that you're even reaching the customers without being with them physically, please.
Okay. Yeah, we are one of those industries that are unfortunately not been able to move as fast as others, and others in the financial sector. We haven't been able to be at pace with the developments in the financial sector, particularly the banking. These days, if you are an account holder, a current account holder, you can bank and transact over the phone. Insurance has a bit of long way to go to be able to do or to attain those levels of technology. However, there are efforts to move into that direction. You will see that the fintechs are providing covers, and that has been able to help us to penetrate, particularly the young population. We are able to transact to some extent what we call personal lines business. Those are insurances of the individuals, motor vehicles, small domestic packaging policies. Those we are able to do on the phone. Recently, the motor insurance has introduced electronic ways of getting your motor certificate. You no longer have to go to an insurance agent or broker or an insurance company to collect the sticker that is mandatory to be put on your windscreen. You're able to transact that online. So we are making efforts. We are still far from where we ought to be, but there's a positive direction. We're moving in the positive direction towards that, and hopefully we should be able to onboard more products besides the motor certificate that has already been that has gotten wide acceptance. People are less inconvenienced to try and physically go and collect those from the insurance company broker. Yeah.
Right. So you're saying there's innovation happening, not moving as fast. What are you doing to make sure you're moving faster?
That's a tough one. Insurance in general is quite, should I say, legalistic process. You have policy documents that are not available in the space, for example, that the phone would have, because it's a very detailed legal contract. So it's up to us to find ways of improving on that. I know, for instance, there was microinsurance that has been developed for small and medium enterprises. The uptake has not been very good, but the intention there was that at the price of 40 shillings every day, you are able to get an insurance policy, and you pay it daily. It hasn't picked as desired, but that would have been the place to address, the requirement or the move towards making or widening the spectrum of insurance availability. So we haven't yet done it. We are trying to do it, both at regulatory level and at practitioners, and including our associations. We are trying to get to a point where we will find that we are serving the public more conveniently to them.
All right.
Yes, it's not yet happened.
Right. Well, this conversation continues, but now we want to take our viewer to Mombasa, where the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, is speaking on the prosecution of election offences and hate speech, as well as launching a gender-based violence cases report. Let's just listen into that.
Where complaints will come in through the call center. And from the mapping processes, unlike other elections, we will have data that we can follow up even after the election in terms of the offences that have been committed. And as you all know, crime date. As ODPP, we will collect and collate that data, and together with our colleagues in the National Police Service, we will be able to follow up and give adequate directions on the kind of investigations that will happen. So those who think that they will be able to commit those offences before, a few days before and during and after elections, they should know that we will have the data to follow up in real time, in addition to even be able to tell where the calls have been made and where the offences in terms of the locality itself where it has occurred. We have further adapted and continue to sensitize participants on the digital platform, that's the one I'm talking about, used to capture real-time data on election and related offences across all county offices. This platform will facilitate real-time mapping out of potential hotspots and prompt deployment of the appropriate response mechanism during the offence, and if not possible, even after, because we will still have the data. This, in addition to the issuance of the ODPP compendium on electoral justice, electoral justice, and the rapid reference guide on the prosecution of sexual and gender-based violence in Kenya that we are launching today. The compendium also captures issues of conduct and misconduct of officials. Of course, we will not be able to realize this if, for example, the National Police Service is not on the ground, and if, as Madam Makori aptly put it, they are not able to provide the security that they ought to provide. And also as officials, we will not be able to discharge our mandate and duties if we are not individuals who have integrity and who will act impartially to ensure that elections are delivered and Kenyans feel that they're free and fair. On that point, of course, the most key issue is the conduct of the police in ensuring that they provide the adequate security. So in the compendium, we have reference also to issues of police misconduct and how IPOA, being critical in ensuring that offences do not occur during this period, will also play. So each and every actor has a key role to play. For example, the Witness Protection Agency will be expected to provide protection of witnesses, vulnerable witnesses, and those who will be threatened during that time. The Kenya Human Rights Commission will be on the ground to collect and investigate human rights offences by not only the people who are in the elections or competing in the elections, but also by ODPP officers, the national police officers, and all officers who have the mandate to ensure that Kenyans enjoy their rights to vote and exercise the civil right to participate in the elections. The civil society that are also working with us, ICJ, IJM, will also play a critical role in ensuring that we deliver a free and fair election. So this exercise is critical, and it is important for us to be able to build that synergy together, and the collaboration and the cooperation that will ensure we are able to deliver, again, I'm emphasizing, a free and fair election. As you may be aware, through its physical, psychological, verbal, and economic manifestation of abuse, sexual and gender-based violence continues to pose a clear and present danger to fundamental human rights and freedoms. Now, the reason why we have also decided to launch this together with this exercise during elections, during this period, is that we have seen a lot of sexual and gender-based violence occurring during the election period. Both through, for example, if you were to see in Nakuru, the criminal gangs executed quite a number of young ladies, if I'm not wrong. We have also seen in past elections where misconduct has occurred, even within those who are supposed to provide security. And this issue must be highlighted, that women and children must have the right to enjoy their freedom. And women also have the right to participate in an election in a peaceful, in a free and fair environment that safeguards them and assures them of the right to exercise their civil duty. In June 2021, the government of Kenya made several commitments to combat SGBV, including adopting GBV prevention and response mechanism in crisis situations, including electoral-related gender-based violence. The ODPP, in support of the government's commitment, has developed a rapid reference guide on the prosecution of sexual and gender-based violence in Kenya to provide an easily accessible resource for prosecutors to facilitate a coherent, expeditious, and efficient prosecutions of cases. I therefore wish to thank the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and the EU, the European Union, through the Programme for Legal Empowerment and Aid Delivery in Kenya, which is PLEAD, for their partnership and support in developing the Rapid Reference Guide. I would want to single out and especially thank Madam Deche, our consultant, who has been very diligent and passionate in this and has ensured that we are able to deliver a document that is all-encompassing. Thank you very much. On the same breath, allow me to convey my sincere appreciation to the International Justice Mission and the International Commission for Jurists for their unwavering support and contribution towards facilitating these joint trainings on election preparedness. As I conclude, I wish to reiterate my sincere gratitude to the ODPP team and all relevant stakeholders and partners who are present here today and have been present in the previous workshops, trainings and sensitization exercises we have undertaken. May I reiterate that our efforts to reinforce our election preparedness and response to SGBV is a continuous process that involves our institutions working collectively and interdependently to share information and best practice and auxiliary to safeguarding the tenets of the rule of law as enshrined in our Constitution. As we edge closer to the general elections, it is evident that we have been relentless in bolstering our joint responsibility to safeguard the integrity of the electoral process. As the ODPP, we remain committed to upholding the rule of law and discharging our mandate with impartiality and wish Kenyans a free, fair, credible, and peaceful election. Thank you all, and God bless Kenya.
Thank you so much.
The Director of Public Prosecutions there, Nurdin Haji, launching the guidelines on how they're going to deal with hate speech offences as well as election offences there, as well as a gender-based violence guidelines on how cases are going to be dealt with. And that is happening, of course, as a prelude to the elections that are happening in 11 days to ensure that the election is free and fair, as well as minimal disruptions, so to say. He has said that the ODPP, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, will work with a number of agencies, including IPOA, which is the oversight authority in charge of the National Police Service, as well as the Witness Protection Agency, the Kenya Human Rights Commission, all that in efforts to ensure that the election is carried out in a peaceful manner, in a fair manner, and also Kenyans are just protected. He has encouraged officials who are going to be involved in the electioneering process to ensure that they are practicing integrity and also to ensure that they conduct themselves in accordance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Well, all that will be coming to us in a detailed manner from Michael Mandiga, who is in Mombasa and following up on that report, and he shall be giving us details on how that goes. In studio, we are continuing with our conversation on matters insurance in disruptive times, such as the election times. And we are having this conversation with Eliud Adiedo. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Insurance Brokers of Kenya. Eliud, thank you for staying with us.
Thank you, Betty.
Let us talk about the policy environment in the insurance industry. Just how is that currently, and what do you think can be done to improve it?
Just drawing from what I've heard about the DPP there,
yes,
insurance is about disruption. It is about restoring business or persons once their lives or properties or businesses have been disrupted. So in the case of the insurance ecosystem, there are a number of players. There's Insurance Regulatory Authority at the apex. That is the person or the authority that licenses all insurance brokers, all insurance companies, insurance agents, and other ancillary services, claims adjusters, surveyors. There's a host of them. So to your question, each of these are regulated and under different provisions of the Insurance Act, Chapter 487 of the Laws of Kenya. So in the case of brokers, we are required to meet certain minimum requirements to operate as insurance brokers, amongst which is a registered office, a fit and proper assessment of the principal officer, etc., etc. So the question was, how do we interlink, and how do we operate? So the largest group of insurance licensees are the insurance agents, who will number more than 12,000 by June. They're spread across the entire country. They do pretty much similar business with what we do, except that they have a bigger outreach because of their number. They go out there, look for clients for the insurance companies, they work on behalf of the insurance companies, and they transact the business of insurance. Insurance brokers, who now, that is where I sit, and that's who the people I represent, we have an association All licensed insurance brokers report to the Association of Insurance Brokers of Kenya. And I sit, like you rightly say, as the CEO at the Secretariat. So it is a membership association. Membership is voluntary. No one is compelled to join the association. So what we do is we spread the information about insurance. We take customers, look after their risks, help them settle their claims if they occur, and make sure that the businesses particularly are covered. The renewal process, the recruitment of new policies, etc. That is done by an insurance broker. So we are risk advisors as far as insurance matters are concerned. So that is generally how the ecosystem is. At the apex, the insurance regulator, then we have licensees, the insurance brokers, insurance agents, loss adjusters, claims adjusters, and several others. Yeah.
So around this time, maybe someone is looking to take an insurance, whether it's for political risk or any other type of insurance. Could you just give them snippets of what they should look out for in terms of gauging which insurance works for them?
Okay. So insurance is the business of transferring risk. If you're a business person and you have, you handle money, you handle stocks, there is a risk of pilferage by your workers, for example. That pilferage, if it happens, you cannot know about it immediately because it takes place over a long period of time. So when you do your accounting at the end of a period, be it a quarter, half yearly or annually, you find that there is stock that has been appropriated and you've encountered a loss. So what an insurance policy then does is it looks at your books, looks at the shortfall, and if proven that there was indeed a shortfall, it restores that in the form of a claim. So the business person will lodge a claim through an insurance agent, an insurance broker, who then communicates to the insurance company. There's the policy terms that will be looked at. Look at what caused the shortfall. If it is something which was an insured risk, it will be reimbursed. If it was not an insured risk, then it will not be paid. So it starts with an insurance contract, and every time you are buying an insurance policy, the important thing is to get an insurance broker to study that policy on your behalf, because they are the professional who is trained to understand the policy and to advise you appropriately. It could be that your sum insured is not adequate, or it could be that the policy is not relevant, or that it has exclusions that perhaps are onerous. So all these will be advised by an insurance broker. He sits with you, understands your needs, and provides a solution.
And maybe just to cushion people from unscrupulous dealers out there, how can you confirm that the person you are dealing with is a genuine, say, insurance broker or works with an insurance company, so that when you're paying your money, or are there channels, correct channels of paying this money to ensure that your money does not go to waste or is stolen?
Okay. There are a number of ways. In the case of insurance brokers, we have a code of conduct where all our members adhere to. But on top of that, because it's the public, they may not have access to that code, they can always check with the IRA. The list of licensed players is always published every year in the newspapers. So before you transact with any intermediary or any insurance company or any loss adjuster, you must check that is in the public. It's always in the public domain, and the closest would be the IRA website, where you will see the list of licensees of all categories. So that would be one step. The second step would be to call people like myself. If you have an insurance broker out there who you are not sure about, call, find out from me or my office. We will let you know whether that is a genuine person or not. The agents likewise have their own mechanisms through their registered officers who you can call if you are in a situation where you cannot check the IRA website, for example, or the notices that are published, to tell us who is a genuine or a fraudulent person. So you are always catered for in that sense. And our offices are open. You can, if you are around the office, you can come to the office, and we will be able to give you that information. Yeah.
What if you have already, say, been affected, or you have any qualms in terms of the payment of what are they called? When you've
Claims.
already, yes, the payment of claims. When you have an issue there, how do you go about it to ensure that it's sorted out?
So the business of broking, insurance broking, is actually to help the policyholder to get genuine claims paid. So the first step would be to report the claim. If it is a motor vehicle, for example, it has been stolen, you will report to the police that your vehicle was stolen or was involved in an accident. The police will produce an abstract. Then you will report to the insurance broker or the insurance company if you have no intermediary. And you will then be directed. If the investigations are such that it is found indeed that there was no foul play on the part of the claimant or on the part of the service provider, the claim will be paid. So there are processes depending on the class of insurance. Motor will have a different process. Fire will have a different process where surveyors have to go and do a report. Accidents personal accident will have a different. There are several ways, all guided by the principle of you acting as though you're not insured. You'll first report. You will then fill certain claim forms. You will involve your intermediary, and then the process takes on its course. Normally, it shouldn't be too long to pay straightforward claims. The ones that may take long are things like forgery, embezzlement, that take a bit of time because they must be investigated. Otherwise, straightforward accident, theft, those ones would be shorter time reimbursement to the policyholder. Yeah.
As the insurance industry is growing and you're looking to increase uptake, of course you are targeting all walks of life. You're looking to have someone, say, insure their house or their household items. What are you doing to ensure that you're even reaching people who may not be literate?
In the case of what I had referred to as microinsurance,
yes,
there is a requirement that the policy is actually in Kiswahili and in English. Those are targeted at the masses, the ones that may not be. Now, literate would be the ones who cannot read and write.
Yes.
That is where now we have a bit of a challenge as insurance brokers. We haven't done as much as going to that grassroots level, but the IRA has in TV adverts has tried its best to educate the masses on what to do when you have a claim. So the process is ongoing. It has not reached the satisfaction of every citizen, and it's because insurance is a very technical subject that has a lot of legalistic language that has not been easy to translate to even to Kiswahili, let alone to vernacular. So we will get there some stage, but we are making baby steps to start and move towards that direction so that everybody, as much as possible, is covered.
Everybody is covered. What is the future of insurance industry as you look in the near future and maybe the long term?
In the long term, I see artificial intelligence, not in the long term. This is the short term.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence playing a lot in the space of claims, where we will have drones taking pictures of accident scenes, communicating that to the underwriter, a loss adjuster is sent, and repairs of a vehicle, for example, start immediately, as opposed to the current practice where many people do not have garages, roadside garages, to go and fit a vehicle that has had an unfortunate accident. So there's a lot of artificial intelligence that will have to be used. There's going to be things like what I was saying, the anti-money laundering will require knowing your customer. You will not be able to transact the business of insurance if you do not know the customer. So there's a lot of convergence of insurance players, insurance, security agents, insurance, what the DPP was talking about, all of these will converge into a financial services sector, and we will be able to have databases that report to all aspects or all departments that are in the financial sector, to be able to serve the customer, the citizen, at one place, at one central place. Yeah.
I like that you've mentioned the issue of having data, understanding of data and really understanding the needs of someone. Nowadays, companies are using social media to understand their clientele and predict what they need, the way sometimes you log on and you're like, I needed this, but I didn't tell them.
Yes, you log in and it tells you who you are. So by putting in your name or phone number or email address, your entire profile pops
right
up.
there.
So that is actually where we are going with insurance, so that you don't fill in so many forms. If you've had an accident, it is predicted that it will be one of several things. A fender has been broken, a door, a windscreen, etc. So it pre-fills a form, and all you do is either sign it or send it to the broker or the insurance company to start activating a payment. So that is where we are heading with the collection of data.
Very important. So as we come to a close of this conversation, what would be your closing remarks?
Well, I would first like to thank you for bringing me into the studio to educate ourselves about the business of insurance, to look into the future of insurance and the financial services sector. It is our hope that the challenges you've put across of having majority of our citizenry getting insurance will be a priority for us who are on this other side of the table, to try and craft solutions to those that are perhaps missing out simply because of the way we are transacting business. It is all very technical, it is all very, the basic language is the English language, and so on and so forth. We look to a point where in the future we will be transacting our own mother tongues, and perhaps they'll reduce the need for paperwork. We should be able to transact using our voices, and so on and so forth. So I appreciate the opportunity to bring this out, and hope that we will be able to do this again.
To make sure that Kenyans know more and take up insurance.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Eliud, for joining us.
Asante sana.
I have been speaking with Eliud Adiedo. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Insurance Brokers of Kenya. We have talked quite a lot about insurance, where the insurance industry is right now, and just what is being done to ensure that it keeps growing at a faster pace. And just to remind you that, remember the political season, there is a political insurance you can take up for your business as well as for your property, just in case of any uncertainties during the political period and even beyond. Well, this is Biz Check. We want to take a quick break. When we come back, a conversation about diaspora remittances. Stay with us.